It started quicker than I thought. I thought it was going to give me a warning. Or a second of warning, I should say. I gotta get this pulled up here. And turn the volume off too. Hello, David. How you doing? Hope all is going well with you. Hope you enjoyed the races this weekend at Atlanta. All right, so that's set up good. So yeah, got a live stream going here. If you couldn't tell, I want to make this a weekly thing. Just sometimes I miss things in race recaps, I feel like, and also sometimes, like this weekend, for example, we didn't really talk about the truck series, so wanted to go back and get a chance to talk about things we missed, things that are still big topics to talk about, like that finish, obviously. The future of Atlanta in terms of the super speedway package, what people are thinking of it. And then in a sense, I guess we can throw in the preview to next week, throw in the Las Vegas preview. So do it all in this live stream, but mainly focusing on Atlanta is what I want to do. I want to make this a weekly thing. As I said, I do miss things in my race recaps. I don't mention every single detail. There are small things I miss. Like at the Clash at the Coliseum, I missed the Stenhouse-Nemechek, I think, confrontation. I never talked about that. So if I had done this on the Monday after that race, then we would have been able to do that. So hoping to make this a more permanent thing once a week. But yeah, that's the hope. But we'll see how this week goes before committing to anything. So that's basically a recap of what this is going to be. Just a recap. I just recapped me talking about how we're going to recap and go into more detail than we did yesterday. Obviously, went into some detail yesterday, but, try to talk about some of the smaller things we missed. As for everything else, wow, it's been quite the week for the channel. So all of you supporting, thank you very much. All of you new supporters, old ones, I truly appreciate it. It's been a really good time as of recent, so I'm appreciative. But yeah, on to Atlanta. My first thought goes to the finish, obviously, and we talked about it a lot yesterday. But that was an all-time great finish. My initial reaction was jumping out of my chair and freaking out, and my heart didn't stop. My heart didn't slow down for a couple of hours after that. I was losing it. It was a really fun race itself, but the finish, that's one of those finishes that's going to get played 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, however long down the line, and it's going to be talked about for a very long time. So I'm looking forward to how this finish is viewed in that long time, because obviously we have a lot of recency bias here with it being just yesterday. But I'm curious to see what people when people look back at this finish, when they look at it a month from now, 2 months from now, when they look at it in September, when we go back to Atlanta, what are people going to say? What are people going to think of that finish? And then, of course, whenever the 1 year anniversary hits, I remember the Hail Melon, that was another big milestone. When that hit the 1 year anniversary, everyone looking back at it was like, wow, that was just so crazy, man. I can't believe it's here. So I'm curious how the finish, the 3 wide photo finish, is going to be viewed at just some of those specific marks. And then obviously we got a long time to go before, as I said earlier, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, because has it been 20 years since the Craven Kurt Busch finish at Darlington? We still look back at that amazingly, as one of the greatest finishes of all time. So when we reach that same number of years, I'm just curious to see what it's like. So, Micah Brown, hello. Hope you're doing well. I think if Kyle Busch had a little help when he made the move to the middle, he would have won. Yeah, I think if any one of those three would have gotten clear into turn three, they would have won. Kyle Busch obviously had a huge run down the backstretch, and he was side by side with Blaney, and Suarez was side drafting Kyle Busch. He was side drafting Blaney, and they were all even for the entire run. I know that they ended up finishing 1, 2, 3 because ultimately it came down to thousandths of a second, but they were basically even that entire time. But if it wasn't for Bubba Wallace, I think, was it Bubba Wallace or Austin Cindric on the bottom, right behind him in the middle of 3 and 4? I think it was Bubba on the bottom. He just slipped up a little bit, went up the track, and Cindric had to kind of avoid him a bit. If it wasn't for that, I think Busch or Blaney wins, whoever gets the better push off of 4. And just due to those two kind of not wrecking, but lifting out of the gas for that half second and giving the top three a bigger gap to them. That is what ultimately caused that 3 wide finish, in my opinion. I do think if one of them could have got to the back bumper, then ultimately one of those, Kyle Busch or Ryan Blaney, would have won, and it would have been not thousandths of a second. It could have been 100th of a second. But I guess we'll never know. So it doesn't matter. What we ultimately saw was the 3 wide finish. And it was an iconic finish, as I have said a billion times at this point. Imagine a 4 wide photo finish. So like what Austin Cindric did earlier in the race when he went 4 wide. That would have been, oh my God. If Bubba had a run coming off of 4 and Bubba took it, went 4 wide with Blaney, Suarez, and Kyle Busch, I don't think I would have had a post-race video because I think my head would have genuinely exploded. That would have been crazy. So, yeah, I don't think I could have processed that. We had some great racing yesterday. Talked about it a little bit yesterday, but I mean, I've been an Atlanta hater ever since the reconfiguration. I just have not liked the reconfiguration. Atlanta was always such a great track. Yes, it needed a repave desperately. And I mean, I'm fine with that. Tracks need repaves. It's how things go. But I was like, why are we adding so much? At first, my thought was, okay, adding banking, maybe, making it a little bit more race friendly. But other than that, I didn't know. At the time, they were trying to turn it into a super speedway. And then once we figured that out, I was like, why are they doing that? Why would they ruin this great 1.5 mile track and turn it into a super speedway? Those first couple races I remember being rough, but since then it's been great. Starting last spring, I think, when Logano won. The summer race was great last summer, and then yesterday's race was amazing. So, New Atlanta, it's basically a hybrid of a speedway and a super speedway. It races very similar to a super speedway in terms of the pack, everyone being right there, but you can make more moves than a super speedway, I feel like. So, from that aspect, it's kind of like a speedway, maybe. That's for you to determine. But ultimately, it was really fun racing throughout the entire day. And there was no single file line. Like, oh my God, the Xfinity race. I couldn't tell you 5 things that happened in that Xfinity race other than they ran out of gas and Austin Hill won again. They sat in a single file line for 150-something laps out of 170-something laps. That was one of the worst races I have ever seen in my entire life. They genuinely sat in a line. They did not even race for the stage wins. They just sat behind Jesse Love and watched him sweep the stage. The only move that was made was by third place to try to get to second, and he waited until turn 4. I don't even remember who it was, but it was extremely disappointing, the Xfinity race. We always talk about how Xfinity puts on the best show. Xfinity put on one of the worst shows on Saturday. But thankfully, Cup actually carried its load and put on a great show. But Xfinity, compared to Cup and trucks, Xfinity's never been great at the super speedways compared to them. They still put on great shows. Like Daytona was a solid race. But ultimately, just a terrible race on Saturday. But Xfinity should be good again come up this upcoming weekend at Vegas. Hot take, but I think Daniel Suarez is a hack. A hack? Define hack. Like, when I think hack, I think of when Denny called Bowman a hack, and that's because he wrecked him. Suarez didn't wreck anyone. He kept everything clean there. So, I mean, maybe you could say he's overrated or something. Some would argue that, but a hack? I don't know about a hack. So, I Suarez did great yesterday. He kept himself in position to win this race, made some good moves there at the end, put himself in contention, as I said, and ultimately he got the win. It's not going to be the flashy. Well, the finish was pretty flashy, but he didn't lead 150 laps and won. He didn't dominate. He didn't gap the field by 10 seconds, but he did what he had to do. And a Cup Series win is a Cup Series win. That win yesterday is the same amount of win as Martin Truex Jr.'s dominating performance at the Coke 600 in 2016. Suarez led 9 laps yesterday, won by 0.03 seconds, or 0.003 seconds, sorry. Truex led 392 out of 400 laps and won by, 6 seconds. And they're both equal to one Cup Series win. So ultimately, a win's a win. I think it was an all-time great race as a whole. Every lap, it seemed like something was going on. They weren't just single file. Hard racing every lap. Yeah, I'd agree with that. There was one point early in stage 2, I want to say, when Todd Gilliland was leading. Todd Gilliland was leading for like 30 straight laps. And the top 7 to 8 were just staying in a line. There were a few times Logano could have made the move to take the lead. The third place car could have jumped out of line, but ultimately the top 6 or 7 were all Fords, and they were just trying to keep it clean, keep the Fords up front, keep the Fords in control of the race. But behind them, I mean, it's like you said, Micah. They were all racing. They were jumping to the bottom, trying to slide back in line, just piece by piece move up the field, trying to get that inside line to get some momentum. So other than that 20 to 30 lap span, I mean, there was always something going on. And even as I said, during that 20 to 30 lap span, there was still stuff going on. You just had to go a little bit further back in the field. So, Battle of Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson, 2011 Atlanta. Yeah, you can't top that if you ask me. I'm a Jeff Gordon fan, so I'm probably biased. But, I mean, that was just one of the greatest finishes ever. It wasn't a photo finish, no. It wasn't, crash into the line or beating and banging into the line, but sliding all over the racetrack, old worn out tires, 2 all-time great drivers, as I said, sliding around, burning their tires up, driving the car in every which direction to try to get a Cup Series win. That's what you want to see. That's what you want to see every week. And ultimately, that's what we got there. So, I love that race. I love that finish. And that's why I've been so mean to Atlanta these past couple of years, because making it a super speedway takes away from that. So, especially with the next gen being so good on these intermediates, it put a sour taste in my mouth after we saw Auto Club, Vegas, Kansas, Charlotte, those first 4 intermediates in 2022 be like instant classics. And then, we go to Atlanta and it's a super speedway and they're just wrecking each other. I was like, man, if we just repaved Atlanta and kept it the same, configurement of the 25-degree banking or whatever it was, we could have had some great races here. The first couple of races with the new pavement would have been a little bit sketchy, maybe a little bit boring if it's all gripped up, but man, down the road it could have been iconic. But ultimately, it's worked out, I think. So I just hope they don't do this with every mile and a half. Like once they do something with Texas, I don't want them to do that to Texas. The Texas fix is simple, if you ask me. Just give it back to what it was. Make the banking in 1 and 2 what it was. And Texas used to be the best intermediate. And once again, my biased opinion, but it put on some great races. Both the 2015 spring race, the 2014 fall race, 2016, both races, I think in 2016 were really good. So, I mean, they're at the end of the old Texas. It was great, but ultimately someone with a higher pay grade than me made that decision. So I swear Denny would always get wrecked and would still be in the top 5. He's just too good at plate racing, says Cloudy 341 Blade. Denny, I thought he was done for 3 or 4 times in this race. That first spin, I mean, there was no damage, and I was like, okay, he'll come back. And as you said, he came back to the top 5, and then he was involved in that wreck at the end of stage 2, rear-ended Chris Buescher, and I thought his right front was going to be done. It was not, and he ended up being fine, and he once again, as you said, came back up through the field, took the lead probably at some point, led a few laps in this race, but then ultimately another crash took him out fully that time. And speaking of Denny Hamlin, did you guys hear his podcast? Denny Hamlin haters are about to get themselves some free content here. Denny Hamlin admitted on his podcast to peeing in his race seat. He really had to go, and ultimately he just let it go. There you go. That is the if I suffer, you suffer method, because I had to hear it. So now I'm making you, the 12 people watching this, you have to hear it too. Denny Hamlin. There you go. Other than wrecking a bunch, he also peed a seat. Anyways, that 2013, that Xfinity race was 2013 Daytona 500 level of boring. Here's the thing. The Daytona 500 in 2013 was 11 years ago. I don't remember much else other than Jimmy Johnson winning it. Everyone talks about how bad it was. I was a kid at that time, so I don't remember it fully. So sorry that I don't hold it to the same hatred as everyone else. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it was an iconic race or an all-time great Daytona 500 or even a good one, but I always see that 2013 Daytona 500 thrown around in such a negative manner, and I sit here like, I don't remember it as negatively as you because I just straight up don't remember it. So, did they ask Elliott at all about the contact with Chastain? Ask Brett Milliken. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. That's a good question. Yeah, Chastain just spun Elliott out, and it was a racing incident. Nothing too intense, and nothing by Chastain standards. That was nothing too bad. Just hit him at the wrong time as they were turning in. I haven't seen any post-race interviews with Elliott. I've seen interviews from guys who got wrecked, Larson, Logano, etc. I've seen Blaney, obviously, Kyle Busch, Daniel Suarez, but nothing on Elliott or Chastain's front, really. So, ultimately, I don't think there's anything bad there. I know that those two have had incidents in the past, and there's been no love lost, I guess. So if it does equate to anything in the future, I guess we'll know this can be one of the points to kind of take a mental note on. But ultimately, I don't think it'll escalate to anything, and I don't think it was much else. There were so many incidents today. Chase Elliott himself was involved in so many incidents. I don't think he cares, ultimately. Can't top 2011. 2001 would like a word with you. 5 cars under a blanket. Jeff versus Harvick 3 weeks after the death of Big E. 2011. Oh, 2011 Atlanta. Yeah. Once again, I'm biased because I'm a Jeff Gordon fan, so you got to take that into account. But yeah, that 2001 Atlanta finish is held in such high regard because of the situation at hand with Harvick replacing Dale Earnhardt, who just died a few weeks prior, and then also it being his first career win, beating Jeff Gordon to the line by that much. It's an iconic finish. I'm not denying that. It's at the absolute worst, it's a top 10 finish of all time. At the absolute worst. Realistically, that's a top 5 finish of all time because of all the circumstances. If that happens in 2004 with Gordon and Harvick, and Harvick's been in that car 3 years at that point, it's a cool finish, but it's just a cool finish. But with all the emotional background to that one, makes it a top 5 finish in my opinion. Just so much happening with that. So for sure, that 2001 finish at Atlanta was iconic. So yeah, I agree with you there. That's iconic. It's an all-time great finish. But man, so that's the next question. I've seen this thrown around on social media, seen it thrown around on YouTube. Was that the greatest finish of all time? I can't declare that right now. It's been one day. The recency bias is insane, even for myself. Yesterday, I was freaking out about it because it was a finish that was amazing. Everyone is talking about it. I mean, I went to the F1. F1 posted, hey, it's our first race week of the season, and the first comment is about the NASCAR finish. It might have been someone I follow. I can't remember if it was or not, but still, it was there. I was like, man, everyone's talking about NASCAR in a positive light for once. Usually when NASCAR is like trending, it's usually for bad reasons. It's like Ryan Newman flipped into the stands or something else bad happened I don't want to bring up because I know the comments will get toxic. So I was so happy to see NASCAR in a positive light. And the finish, it was iconic. I think, like the Craven Kurt Busch finish, it's such a random track for it to happen at. It's random drivers for it to happen to. I think this will go down as an all-time great finish. But as of today, I'm not ready to declare it the greatest finish of all time. 20 caution. Don't know what that means. I mean, if you gotta go, you gotta go. There's no bathroom in the car. Oh, boy. 2013 was Danica starting on pole, leading laps, and Jimmy wins. That sums up the 2013 Daytona 500. Yeah, that was the year that the pole is rigged. That's the year that the pole is rigged conversation started because 2013 Danica won it. 2014 Austin Dillon won it in the return of the 3-car. 2015 Jeff Gordon won it in his final Daytona 500. 2016 Chase Elliott won it in his first year in the 24-car. So that is what started the conspiracies of the pole at the Daytona 500 is rigged. I remember that thoroughly. I do. The conspiracies, that is. So as for Jimmy winning, yep, it happened. Didn't he rip the front end of his car off at that 500? I think he did. Kyle Larson's super speedway curse continues. Big W. Big W. Ooh. I guess Cloudy 341 Blade is not a Kyle Larson fan, but yes, the guy cannot find any luck at these super speedways. Basically, Kyle Larson, Talladega, Daytona, Atlanta, it doesn't matter. If he leads 50 laps, if he leads 2 laps, if he's running 38 the whole race, he will find a way to wreck. It's truly incredible. It is truly incredible. Larson was actually good yesterday. He had some speed. He led 15 to 20 laps in this race. He scored stage points. And then it happened. Brad Keselowski just lost the car, and Kyle Larson was right there. Larson has probably the worst luck on the super speedways, I would say. It was Truex for a bit there, but Larson has surpassed him, I think. Kyle Larson has the worst luck on super speedways, and the majority of the time it's nothing to do with him. He just happens to be there, and oh, there goes Brad spinning into him. Oh, he gets clipped. Oh, Ryan Preece is coming back up the track when he was clear. Like, just out of nowhere, here comes Preece. I don't know what else Larson can do at this point. At this point, I think he just goes into the weekend of super speedways like, well, how am I going to wreck this time? And then one of these times, I don't think he's even going to finish. He's just going to straight up win, and he's going to get out of the car, and he's not going to celebrate because he's going to be so shocked that he didn't wreck. That's my bold prediction, is that Larson, the next time he finishes a super speedway, he wins, and he doesn't even do a burnout. He's so shocked that he even finished the race. There's my bold take for the day. I've been following NASCAR since the late 80s, and that was the best finish I've ever seen at Atlanta, says Craig Thompson. Wow. We were just talking about all-time great finish. Are we ready to declare this the greatest finish of all time? Well, at least at Atlanta, Craig is ready to declare that. We're talking 2001 Harvick Gordon. We're talking Jimmy Johnson, Carl Edwards, Dale Earnhardt, Bobby Labonte, Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson 2011. We've got all these options for iconic finishes at Atlanta, and Craig is picking the Daniel Suarez over Ryan Blaney and Kyle Busch photo finish. And also, it was the third closest finish in NASCAR history. I think that was the closest between the top 3, because that 2011 finish between Gordon, Johnson, and Boyer, it was Boyer. Gordon was like a half car length back, so he ended up finishing like half a second, or not half a second, half a tenth off of those two. So it was only those two that were 2 1,000ths of a second. From first to third yesterday, it was 7 1,000ths of a second. So I think someone can probably correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure that's the closest margin between the top 3. Once again, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but that sounds right in my head, unless I'm forgetting some close finish. 2013 Daytona 500 was basically single file most of the day. Danica starting on pole, leading a few laps. Matt Kenseth's engine blew up after having the dominant car, and Jimmy won. That's all. All right, I won't watch the highlights. You guys really don't want me to watch the highlights. In fact, what if I did a live stream where I just watched the 2013 Daytona 500? Would that make you mad, YouTube world? I'm kidding. I wouldn't actually do that. Or would I? I'm kind of crazy. I might. 2003 Southern 500 is still the greatest finish in my mind, and I was born a year after 2003, the last year in the Pontiac, Ricky Craven's last Cup win, and Kurt Busch, the beginning of the villain era. Yeah, ESPN legend Ricky Craven, back before ESPN got really weird. Yeah, obviously an iconic finish. I was not a NASCAR fan yet. I didn't become a NASCAR fan until 2010, so I missed out on the live action, the live reaction, the live raw footage of it, but I've seen the replay 10,000 times. NASCAR posted the replay once again today. Many say that's the greatest finish of all time. So, it's iconic. I don't know what else to say on it. And it was at Darlington of all tracks. That was at Talladega, Daytona, even a track like a Charlotte or something. It wouldn't be too shocking. But the fact that it was Darlington is just crazy to me. That's the craziest part of it. So I don't think you'll ever see that at Darlington again, if we're being honest. But you never know. We almost got it a couple of years ago when Larson just floored it on the fence against Hamlin. Except for the 2011 Atlanta race, I'm also a diehard Gordon fan. Craig, high five. God bless you. Brett Milliken says, how many drivers do you think makes that block on Kyle Busch that made it 3 wide? That's a fantastic question. I did not think Blaney's not the type of driver to wreck the field. He did it one time at 2020 when he won at Talladega, but that's because there was 10 feet or 100 feet until the line, so he could literally see the stripe. You got to do what you got to do. You're at the stripe. And, it was a little bit dirty. It was a small bit dirty, but it was nothing egregious. But Blaney's not the kind of guy to wreck the entire field on the backstretch to win the race. And also in that situation, I think if Blaney throws a block on Kyle there, I think he takes himself out of the equation. I think he gets wrecked. I think he gets turned. And at that point, whoever's in 12th, 13th place somehow scoots by for the win. So Blaney's a clean driver. Blaney he respects other drivers. Kyle Busch made a great move there to take him 3 wide. Who would throw that block? I could name a few drivers who would throw that block, but ultimately we got a clean finish. So that was another thing I didn't talk about a lot yesterday is the amount of respect I gained for Suarez, Kyle Busch, and Ryan Blaney. They made some great moves in those final laps, but nothing was dirty, nothing was crazy, and they kept it clean to the line. Ryan Blaney could have easily just washed up the track, hit Kyle Busch into Suarez to knock those two out of contention to get the win. Kyle Busch could have turned down, bumped Blaney, went back up, bumped into Suarez. Suarez could have turned down on the other two, but they kept it clean. They did not even scrape each other. Extremely clean finish, iconic finish, 3 wide to the line. It was beautiful, and I respect them so much for it because I know there are other drivers in that field that would have tried to wipe out the field to get that win. Where were we? All right, Brett. Mike asked, I think last night's finish is runner-up to 0-1 Atlanta. So, yeah, we've got one person saying that last night was the best Atlanta finish. We got another saying 0-1 Atlanta was the best Atlanta finish. It's crazy. I always forgot about the phrase, the whole classic Atlanta finish or whatever the saying is. See, I can't even remember what the saying is. And I always forget about them. 2001, obviously, I know 2011 we've talked about. Those are the two I always think of, but I always forget about the Earnhardt-Labonte, the Edwards-Johnson. Am I forgetting any more? I mean, last night, obviously, but I never even think of Atlanta as a classic finish track, but it is. Ultimately, it is. So, we have to talk about it, which is the most iconic Atlanta finish. As of today, I'm saying yesterday. My biased side says 2011, but my unbiased side says yesterday. So there you go. But once again, recency bias. Ask me again in about a year, maybe a year and a half, just to avoid the 1 year anniversary thing. Now that we're done with plate racing, time for real season to begin. Who's the third race of the season pretty much determines how your season is going to be. Yeah, this race at Vegas is important, but it's not. If you suck at Vegas, that does not necessarily mean you're going to suck the rest of the year. But my top of my head, I know that the Fords and the Toyotas have new bodies that they haven't run at these 1.5 miles yet, but I expect the contenders to be your normal 1.5 mile contenders. Larson, Byron, all 4 Gibbs cars. Yes, all 4 Gibbs cars. Ty Gibbs really ran well there at the end of last year, and I think he continues into this year. I think both 2311 cars are going to run really good at Vegas. Bubba he's found something at these 1.5 miles. Texas on pole last fall. Kansas has been one of his best racetracks. Vegas, he ran great a couple of years ago there. So something about these 1.5 miles, Bubba Wallace has figured out. He's going to be in contention. Tyler Reddick is going to be in contention. Ross Chastain's been great at Vegas. I am a little concerned about Ford. Other than that Logano win in the fall of 22, they have not performed particularly great at this track. It's been dominated by Chevy and Toyota. So I'm curious to see how they do early in the weekend, practice, qualifying. I think that practice session, the first real practice session of the season, I think that's going to be huge for the teams to figure out how their cars are in the short run and the long run, even though you don't get that long of a run. But even just a 15-lap stint can be huge for what these teams learn. So a big weekend coming up in Vegas and a lot of unknowns as well. But once again, I expect these contenders to be your normal contenders that we saw last year. What's up in between the lanes? Hope you're doing well. The 2016 Daytona 500 finish doesn't get enough recognition. I'm with you there, Micah, because purely that finish was clean. You look back at other Daytona 500 finishes, 2020 was a little overshadowed by Newman flipping into the fence. 2018, when Austin Dillon won, was little overshadowed by Austin Dillon dumping Eric Almirola. 2007, Harvick, Mark Martin, that was a really cool finish, but the field is wrecking behind him. 2016, the only thing that happened was Matt Kenseth got shuffled out of line, and he did a great job saving it and not wrecking the field. Meanwhile, Hamlin and Truex finish in a photo finish, and the rest of the field stays clean, and we had like 30 cars finish that day. So I agree with you on that. Is that rare for a 3-wide finish for the win? Asks in between the lanes. Absolutely. To have a 3-wide finish for the win at a non-Daytona Talladega track is genuinely insane. The only time I have seen 3-wide finishes for the win is at Daytona and Talladega. Can't say I've seen it happen anywhere else. And the fact that it wasn't like, 3 1,000ths between first and second and then a 10th to third, the fact that it was 7 1,000ths separating first from third, genuinely mind-blowing. Like, I've watched that replay, I kid you not, at least 150 times. At least. I have watched it on loop a lot. So, genuinely one of the most insane finishes. I like your hat, KFB. Gonna get rowdy. Yeah, this is my newest hat. I thought I needed to get a Kyle Busch hat. I've got a Joe Gibbs one back there. I try to spread out my hat game. I've got a Buscher hat. I've got the Kyle Busch hat. Byron, Elliott, Larson, Bowman. Reddick. I've got a Reddick hat. I need to get more. I know. I've got an idea of who's next. I got to get an SVG hat. Speaking of, if anyone in here is from New Zealand or Australia, I love you. The Australian, New Zealand watchers on this channel, they love their SVG updates. They love to see how Shane Van Gisbergen is doing, and I appreciate you guys so much for watching the channel, for watching my videos, and also so respectful in the comments. It's so nice to see. So thank you, Australians and New Zealanders. I love you, and I'm glad that you love SVG. And I'm glad that I can inform you about his NASCAR adventure. And we're going to have another one this weekend at Las Vegas. So I'm looking forward to telling you guys all about that. So, yeah, it's been a fun time. I've enjoyed the Australians and the New Zealanders. I make sure every time I make sure to, for my SVG videos, I try my best to remember to wear the McLaren hat because it's got a Kiwi on there. Because Bruce McLaren, he was from New Zealand. So I try to make sure to do that for you guys. Fun fact, Bubba would be leading the points under the Winston Cup format since he's the only driver. Yeah, I did see that actually. Bubba, he's a good super speedway racer. That's been known for a while. Even back in his Richard Petty Motorsports days, he was a great super speedway racer, leading laps, finishing runner-up at the Daytona 500 in 2018. Bubba's always been a great super speedway racer, so I'm not surprised at all to see him top 5 in these first 2 races. And now that Vegas is coming up, oh, he's got a genuine shot. He could leave next week as the points leader, like not just in the Winston format, like in the current format. Bubba Wallace, he's run really well so far. I'm glad I had him in my playoffs so far. So they got to keep it up, but they got to get a win this year. They got to get a win to get in the playoffs. It's not a must, but it helps a lot, as Daniel Suarez can tell you right now. Any schemes you like from yesterday's Cup race? Ooh, that's a good question. The Hooters car, I love the color orange, and the way that paint scheme was amazing. Trying to think. I think Barry's is good. It's not anything absurd, but it was a nice looking car. The Harrison's car. The King's Hawaiian for Keselowski's a good looking car. I wish the Cheddar's car was back to kind of that Reddick 2022 with the croissants and the white where you could actually see the croissants on it. Blaney's wasn't bad, but I really like their old body armor car. That Coke 600 body armor car. Oh, that was beautiful. Give me a second, guys. It takes me a minute to think about paint schemes. I'm going through the numbers in my head of each and every driver. Logano's paint scheme is boring. They need to put some stripes on it or something, or just a little bit more red. Please do what you do with the Pennzoil car. Instead of the black stripes across the side, make them red for the shell car. The Raptor car, this weekend is the first time I am ever going. You are never going to hear me say these words again. I like the Raptor car this weekend. With the flames, it reminded me of Gordon's old car. It kind of looked like one from the distance. It looked like his old drive-in Hunger cars, and up close, it was the flames like Exalta. Other than that, the green Raptor, the gray Raptor, the white Raptor cars are ugly, and I never want to see them again. They take away from Exalta, and that makes me cry. Anyways, it's going to be one of those classic Atlanta finishes. That's the quote. Thank you, Cloudy 341 Blade. I knew someone was going to say it, so thank you very much. Oh, I'm behind on comments. Ryan Blaney, big mistake, block a little bit more for the win. I disagree there, David, because I do think if he throws that block, Kyle Busch had too big of a run. If Blaney throws that block, someone's wrecking. Either he's wrecking in front of the field, he's getting dumped down the track, or they stack up behind and they start wrecking 6-7 rows on back. So I think Blaney was good to not throw the block. Obviously, he ended up losing the race, so you could argue different, but I genuinely think the field starts wrecking if he throws a block. So I disagree, but you guys are obviously entitled to your own opinions. Ryan Blaney drinks body armor, zero sugar. I had body armor like twice in high school. After a basketball game, one of my teammates' parents had body armor for us all. It wasn't bad tasting. It's just, I don't know. I just never really drank it a lot. I always just went for the simple stuff. I went for Gatorade. I'm boring, so. But yeah, I remember it wasn't bad. I don't remember the flavor I had, but body armor's not bad. I think Chevy is going to win Vegas. Well, they've got a 33% chance. One of 3 manufacturers. I'm sure the math is wrong there because there's probably more Chevys than the other 2, but there's my terrible math for you. I swear SHR won't be around much longer because they keep getting penalties and donating money to NASCAR. This is why we are doing this live stream today. This is why I want to do this every week, because there are things that happen on Sunday morning, Saturday afternoon, that I don't get to make a video for, that I would like to talk about immediately after the race, but I can't because it doesn't really fit in the race recap category. The number 10 and 41, let me look this up for first. They got something confiscated. I should have bookmarked the tweet. Now I'm going to have to... oh my. Give me a second here. Oh, I know how I can do it. You can like search within Twitter now, like specific words that people tweet. Okay, maybe not on the desktop version. Well, that sucks. 10 confiscated. Oh, let's go. I'm a genius. By genius, I mean I'd looked up 3 words on Twitter. Okay. NASCAR has confiscated the roof rail deflectors from the Stewart-Haas Racing number 10 and number 41 cars for further evaluation. No details were given. Any penalties would come next week. You guys, what is my scale for these teams in terms of their competitiveness? I've used it for Colleague and Rick Ware Racing so much when I make the videos about them. I say, are they a serious franchise or are they an unserious franchise? Stewart-Haas Racing, for the past 15 years, has usually been a serious franchise. But then there's things like this that just are so unserious. They have had so many penalties under this next-gen car. Hendrick's been penalized. RFK's been penalized. Gibbs has been penalized. There's been a lot of penalties, but it's been once for each of these teams. Not Stewart-Haas. They don't like to push the limit. They see the limit and they shove it. They go way beyond the limit. Harvick got disqualified at Talladega last year. Harvick got a massive penalty 2 years ago after Talladega. Chase Briscoe got the biggest penalty in NASCAR history for an individual team last year. Who else? I want to say Almirola. Did Almirola get one? And then there's this weekend. And ultimately, I think there's going to be a penalty. NASCAR, when they confiscate parts in the next-gen era, it means that there's going to be a penalty. I don't know if it's going to be the 150-point or 125-point deduction that Chase Briscoe got last year at the Coke 600. But 25 points, 50 points, 75, I don't know. But Stewart-Haas, they can't be serious. They're I don't know, man. I don't know what they're doing, man. It's like they want to be fined. As you said, who said that? Cloud 341 Blade. It's like you said. It's like they want to be run out of business. Oh, my God. Martin Truex Jr., 0 for 81 on drafting tracks. At least he survived. I like the mentality. No, he did not win, and he is terrible at these super speedways, but he survived, and that's what matters. What was up with Logano's glove? They said that it was illegal, and he got a penalty. The glove. The O.J. Simpson glove. Too soon. Anyways, no. So you have to have your gloves to a specific specification. That was kind of repetitive. But you have to have your glove within a set of rules. Some of it has to do with safety, but some of it, believe it or not, is competitiveness. So basically, I don't have a glove in here. I'm sorry for not having a glove. Just imagine I have a glove. Usually you've got your normal glove, okay? Well, Joey Logano's glove on his left hand, perfect, had webbing. It had webbing in between his fingers. There was webbing, like a duck foot. Think about a duck's foot. It has webbing in between their little duck toes, whatever those things are called. Well, with the webbing in between the fingers of his gloves, Joey Logano puts his hand on the window net and somehow it deflects air and gives him some sort of aerodynamic advantage. I don't know how, I don't know why, but it's illegal. and it could result in penalties this week. The penalty report this week is going to be spicy. It's going to be, what's the hot pepper, the Carolina Reaper pepper? It's going to be Carolina Reaper pepper spicy, the penalty report this week. We've got illegal gloves. Stewart Haas Racing is going to get another penalty of fines and point deductions. Man, I've never been so excited for a penalty report. God, I'm such a NASCAR nerd for saying that, but woo! So Joey Logano had an illegal glove, and it has been confiscated. And then he gets back Sunday, and he has his normal red gloves back on. That was the other thing. He had black gloves, and he doesn't usually. He usually has his red gloves. And I didn't really think about it until they said that. But I was out and doing something when I saw the report. I picked up my phone when I had a minute, and I saw that. I was like, what in the world? Usually, to be dropped to the rear and then to have to do a pass, so you have to fail inspection like 4 times. I'm like, what is this glove made of? Like rocket fuel? Well, apparently it's an aerodynamic advantage. I think Lee Petty was 3 wide for the win, but it was Daytona. Not just a Buescher hat, but a Prosper Texas zone in between the lanes. You get me. Prosper Texas zone, Chris Buescher. I have his hat. They had this really cool Texas design hat of a Chris Buescher hat, but I figured I need to get a new driver hat or some type of hat and not get another Chris Buescher hat, so I went with this one. But I'll get another hat soon. For F1 this season, I'm getting a Logan Sargent hat, which, by the way, F1 predictions, Wednesday. Look forward to it. You can guess my champion. It's pretty obvious. But then again, I'd be stupid to not pick him. But other than that, I'm going to predict all 20 drivers in the driver's standings. I'm going to pick all 10 spots in the constructors. We're going to have a fun time. We're going to make some weird predictions because the championship pick is too boring. So we're going to make some weird, wacky predictions. So look forward to that. Wednesday, sometime in the early afternoon, late morning. It'll be fun. But back to the comments here. If Kyle Larson or Martin Truex Jr. wins a super speedway race this year, I'll shave my head. That confident. Somebody screenshot that. Micah, hope you're a man of your word, because if one of them wins, better shave your head. We're not done yet. The fact we have Vegas coming a good track for the next-gen car and looking at some of these tracks that fit the car well, we eating good for the next couple of weeks. Going to be a year, yeah. Last fall's Vegas race was really good, and that had a great finish itself. It wasn't a photo finish, but Bell chasing down Larson was cool. It was epic. I was there for it. It was really cool just to see Bell closing the gap all the way around the track. Both Vegas races in 22 were amazing. The spring 2023 race was not great. But that's also because it was really cold or something. I forget what was happening that weekend. I think it's supposed to be cold there again this weekend. Let's not be negative here. I hope it's a great race at Vegas this weekend. I hope it's a competitive race. I hope 20 guys lead this weekend. That's unrealistic, but we'll see. Bubba's only 3 points out of the points. So, yeah, we talked about that a little bit. Bubba, a great super speedway racer, and he's got another track that he's been running great at recently in Las Vegas. He could be the points leader after this upcoming weekend. It feels like, oh, whoa, what just happened there? No, come back. Brett says, it feels like Cindric has to win a super speedway race. It felt like he was the star of the race and always made it interesting. Yeah, I was really impressed with Cindric. Back-to-back weeks of him being in contention for the win. This week, leading laps, winning a stage. But he's won a super speedway before. He's proven he's a good super speedway racer. But I think if he wins, it's going to be a super speedway or a road course, another track that he's really good at. I'm going to try to go fast to try to catch up on the comments here. So sorry if I blow through your comment here. Josh Berry shops at Harrison's. If the championship race was on super speedway, Hill would be a 7-time champion. Austin Hill would break every single NASCAR record if the championship was at Atlanta, Daytona, or Talladega. What does he put in his cereal on the mornings of super speedways? I don't get it, man. How is he so good? He got in a wreck 4 times last week and won. He did nothing relevant on Saturday this week, and he still won. I don't get it. How does he do it? How does he do it? I got nothing for you. Kyle Busch eats at Cheddar's after every race and orders the number 8. I went to Cheddar's 3-4 weeks ago. I've been to Cheddar's twice in my life. One time I got the chicken tender special because at the time it was the Tyler Reddick chicken tender special. And I was like, I'm a NASCAR fan. By law, I have to eat it. Well, I broke law the second time and I got a pasta dish. And it wasn't bad. It was a chicken Alfredo. They put some broccoli in there. It was a lot of food. I had to take some home for leftovers, but it was pretty good. Can't deny it. Raptor scheme far away looks like the Wendy's Baconator scheme from Chicago last year. Yeah, unlike the Baconator scheme, though, the Raptor scheme didn't wreck 20 times in a race. Oh, my God. Gregson at Chicago last year. That's arguably the worst individual performance in a race, and I think he still finished like 23rd. That was, as the kids say, a stinker. Suarez has freeway insurance. Oh, you're talking about paint schemes again. SHR from 2021 to now needs to be studied. Yeah, the fall off has been insane. They went from championship 4 potential. They should have been in the championship 4 in 2020. Harvick had 9 wins in a season. 2021, they win a combined 1 race, I think. 2022, they win a combined 3 races. 2023, I had the same amount of wins as Stewart Haas Racing. 2024, to be determined. I'm happy Kyle Busch won the truck race on Saturday. Yeah, the truck race was better than the Xfinity race, but it was nowhere near the Cup Series race. You had some moves happening there. Enfinger got a flat tire late. That was it. Nothing crazy, but much respect to the truck drivers this weekend. I've been bashing them for driving like absolute maniacs, absolute morons, wrecking each other because they don't know what they're doing. This week, they kept it clean. It was a super speedway, and they kept it clean. So massive respect to the truck guys. I don't know who yelled at them, but they kept it clean this week. We got to respect them. Once again, I've been really harsh on them these past couple of races with the championship last year and Daytona last week, but I applaud them. They really did a good job this week. They kept it clean, and massive respect to them. They did a great job this week, truly. I picked Alex Bowman win Las Vegas. Yeah, that is an underrated pick. Bowman in the next gen at Vegas is a cheat code. He was running top 10 the entire race in the fall before he ultimately had a mechanical issue or a tire go down, whatever that problem was. The spring race in Las Vegas, he finished top 5. The fall of 22, I can't remember what he did. And then he won the spring of 22. Something about Vegas and Alex Bowman. If his odds are in the plus to finish in the top 10 in Vegas, you take that. Better take that, baby. SHR got to be nervous since FRM became a Tier 1 key partnership with Ford. Yeah, that's tough for them. Glovegate. Yeah, Joey Logano. Glovegate. If I was Harvick, oh my, it jumped again. If Harvick was in a Gibbs, Penske, or Hendrick car from 2021 to forward, he would have been a championship contender. I agree with that. Did he really say too soon, bro? It's been since 94. I'm pretty sure it's okay. Hell, Eminem made a diss song in his role, modeled blood in a white Ford Bronco. Yeah, that is true. It has been 30 years, but you never know. People can still be sensitive to the issue. If one of the 13 people watching this live stream happens to be related, I don't know. I try to be nice to everyone here, and I don't know, but yeah, OJ Simpson. Do you guys follow him on the Twitter? OJ Simpson has a Twitter. Speaking of, I'm talking about OJ Simpson's Twitter on NASCAR live stream. Oh my. Are you gonna do an F1 fantasy league? Apparently, I saw that on the app. I've never done F1 fantasy, so I will not start a league for F1 fantasy because I don't know what I'm doing. I may join a league this year, so that's something. But speaking of, if you have not joined, I will put the link in the chat. Go join our NASCAR Fantasy League. We have a good time. Speaking of, actually, that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to read you guys the most recent results, the most recent standings of our fantasy league. And I've looked it up this morning. I really suck at fantasy NASCAR. As for the rest of you, you guys are good. You guys are pretty good. I got to respect it. You guys are actually pretty good at this whole NASCAR fantasy thing. All right, here we go. League standings. Leading our fantasy NASCAR league in first place with 316 points is It Factor Autosport Incorporated. I don't know who you are. If you happen to be watching this live stream right now, congratulations to you. You are leading the fantasy standings. Good job. Through week 2, you're leading. Second place is PC_18. Third place, Zerkman95. Fourth place, Big Hat LJ. Fifth place is Hell on Wheels 24. Sixth place is Dan the Jets fan. Seventh place is Pins_22. Eighth place, Otter Bear 8. Ninth place, 45 and 23 11 fan. 10th place, RT Racing. 11th place is me. I'm a loser. 12th place is Dr. Zero. And 13, Shane Van Hamburger Buns, who has 0 points. Shane Van Hamburger Buns, learn how to set your league or set your lineup. All right, let's see here. All right, I'm getting the link, so if you want to join, you can join. Ooh, SVG's just got a new paint scheme. That's fun. I will show you as soon as I put up this link. I can't do 20 things at once, guys. It's a struggle for me. Asking me to do 2 things at once, that's enough. That's crazy. But there you go. There's the link. SVG's new paint scheme is here. Oh, they put it on the sphere. You guys know how much I love the sphere. So this is like my dream. Look at it. It's beautiful. You can see the light, my light reflecting in it, but sphere. Behold the sphere. It's actually a pretty nice paint scheme. I'll put a post in the community post so you guys can look at it. Back to the comments. Bailey Curry had a convertible Silverado. Oh my Lord. I thought that was fake. Here's the thing. I've seen cars without their engine hoods. I've seen the cars without their whole front end and only having the wheel, tire, and engine. I have seen cars with their deck lids dragging behind them. I've seen them run without a quarter panel. I've seen them run with duct tape as their numbers. I have never seen a NASCAR car, or in this case a truck, drive without half of its roof. That was wild. That's the word I would use. Wild. I mean, I don't know, man. It was crazy. It was dumb. That's a rule violation, so he didn't finish, obviously. But yep, he was driving around without a lid. Genuinely crazy. Oh my God. Hendrick Motorsports 40th anniversary Martinsville paint scheme. Read all of them. Yeah, I saw that a couple weeks ago, or last week, this week. They're all nice looking. The 24 looks like the Phoenix 2014 fall paint scheme, which gave me flashbacks, not in the good way, but it's a pretty race car. The 5 looks just inverted, essentially. The 9 looks weird because it's a green sponsor, but other than that, it's still a fine-looking paint scheme. And the 48, it's weird to see the 48 be red, I will admit. I know it was red those couple times when Jimmy Johnson did the Lowe's red car, but it's still a little bit weird to see the 48 with red on it. F1 could literally never have a finish like that last night ever. I know so many people are saying that, and I'm like, some people are defending NASCAR really hard. Some people defend F1, and I'm sitting in the middle like, I like them both. I'm sorry if that's a crime, guys, but I like them both. I don't know what to do. It's like Ricky Bobby. I don't know what to do with my hands. So, Yeah, it's F1 does not get a lot of photo finishes. They had the Alonso Perez photo finish at Brazil, but that was for third. So I don't think I'm gonna see. I don't think we're gonna see anyone being side by side with Max Verstappen for the win, unless there's a restart with 2 to go and Max Verstappen is restarting 8th. So you drop from 2nd to 5th in the fantasy league. It is a super speedway. That's my excuse right now, is that they were super speedways and that's why I'm bad. But watch me pick guys who wreck at Vegas too. So we'll figure it out. I'm going to try to figure it out this week. I've got an idea of who I want to put in my lineup. It'll probably be Larson, Reddick, Hamlin, Bell, Truex. But other than that, I'm not going to do anything crazy this week. Super speedways, I go crazy. Regular tracks, especially now that I'm really far behind of, who is it? Who's leading our league? It Factor Auto Sport Incorporated. I can't fall behind more, so yeah. I find it kind of funny that most of the cautions were caused by Fords. Maybe the nose is messing up how they bump draft. I didn't really notice that, actually. I know Keselowski caused that one wreck because he just lost it. Logano caused that one wreck because he just cleared himself. Briscoe just sent it for no reason. And he wrecked the field. Those are the only incidents I can remember off the top of my head. The lap 2, that was just typical stack up stuff. So maybe there is something to it. I'd have to go back and watch the highlights again. But, I mean, you could have a point there, but I'd have to watch and confirm before I 100% agree with you there. Cloudy 341. Blade. 5th to 3rd after 2 races. Good job in between the lanes. Doing good. Our fantasy league has a grand total of 13 people. One person has yet to score a point. So I guess I'm really not doing that bad. But one person has yet to score a point. We've got the leader with 316. We've got second to last with 150. So a close field so far. Matt Crafton was on race day, and he called out the young drivers and said, ask questions to veteran drivers. And he also said, save big money at Menards. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me to see Matt Crafton, the veteran in that field, calling out the field essentially for, to put it nicely, sucking. And, to kind of call out guys for absurd moves, causing wrecks, whatever it may be. Matt Crafton, as I said, he is the veteran in that series right now. He's a 3-time champion in that series. It makes great sense. So he needs to be that guy. It's good to hear that he is being that guy, and hopefully we can get another clean show this Friday at Vegas. So we'll see. Joey Logano is a great driver and has a lot of talent, but sometimes I just don't get the moves he makes. I don't know what he was going for. He said in his post-race interview the car just kept going up. I don't know what that means, if we're being honest. Sorry, I thought I saw this thing move, the screen. I got that. That's my operation center to make sure the stream is moving fine. Anyways, I got distracted. Yeah, he just said the car just kept going up the track. I don't know what that means, really. I mean, obviously, I can see what it means, but in terms of the driver's perspective, I got nothing. I got nothing. Just straight up, I got nothing. The super speedway, sometimes he makes dumb moves. He's a championship driver. He knows what he's doing, so there's no excuse on that front, but ultimately, yeah, things happen. Don't worry, Crafton didn't say save big money at Menards. Imagine if we had 900 horsepower and a 1.5-mile track with the next gen car, man. Bring back Chicagoland and Auto Club. I think the cars are great on the mile and a halfs at the next gen, so no complaints on my front there. As for Chicagoland, unfortunately, I don't see much of a future for it with the Chicago Street Race being a success so far. As for Auto Club, even worse news for you there, buddy. That track is half torn down right now, so sorry. I like when Cup drivers are in the booth for Xfinity and ARCA. Yeah, I thought who was in the booth Sunday? Logano and Keselowski, or Saturday? Yeah, I thought they did great. I'd agree with you there. Hmm. Well, I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you guys for watching. I do want to make this a weekly thing where basically we just recap what happened in the week or the weekend of races. I saw a comment that said Texas, sorry. But Atlanta was this past week and we had a Trucks Xfinity Cup, and I didn't have an Xfinity, or I didn't have a truck recap. The Xfinity recap was solely focused on SVG, and then the Cup race recap, there was so much that happened. I missed some small things. So the fact that I get to come back and talk about some of these things, I really do want to make this a weekly occurrence, just because it makes me feel better that I'm able to talk with you guys directly about some of the things that I missed and see your comments. And even you guys pointed out some things that I missed that I would not have even thought to bring up in this stream. So I think it's a win-win for both sides. I really do want to make this a weekly thing, and hopefully we can. It'll be a fun time. And yeah, so thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. More videos this week. We talked about the spicy penalty report. That will be a video this week. I got an announcement later in the week. I will let you guys know. I will let you guys know about that. And then we got F1 predictions on Wednesday. I'm looking forward to that as well, so make sure to be there for that. Any other updates, as I always tell you, community post, baby. Make sure to go to the community post. I always update you there. And join the Fantasy League every week. If we do the stream thing every week, I will read out the standings. That will be your source. So make sure to join the Fantasy League. We got 13 guys in the league right now, and currently your leader is It Factor Autosport Incorporated. So thanks again for watching, guys. Have a good rest of your night.